Good afternoon, everyone. I hope this works. Right, so I'm here to talk about a beginning. It's actually supposed to be an end of the semester and the year, but let's see. Okay. So, in the recent years, we have seen an increasing use of digital videos in day-to-day life for a lot of other functional purposes, including right now we are videotaping this thing. And why? Because we want to use it for some purpose. We are preserving it for present and future use it. Now the thing is, we're not only storing this video, we're also going to store at least some metadata. We'll say this was recorded on this date in this place. Somebody gave this talk on something. So that helps. When somebody's watching this video, will help to understand what's this video about. Of course, it'll be the content itself, but then there's all this additional information. But now imagine somebody watching this video 100 years from now, or a long time from now. Okay. Now, Anne gave a wonderful talk last week about mobile devices. Now, it's very likely that in 100 years, those kind of devices will change a lot. Somebody mentioned about iPhone in that presentation. It's possible that iPhone may not even exist in 100 years from now. Right?
Remote possibility.
Exactly. So just looking at that talk and just having some metadata may not be enough to actually understand what she was talking about in year 2007. All right? So we need to put even more than just that additional information, what I'm going to refer to as context. Right? Now you can ask me all this question about what is context. Well, I don't have answers. But I'm still going to make this presentation talking about how to mine contextual information when we are working on preserving these digital videos. So, okay, this works. Now, so as I mentioned, preservation is not just about storage. We're not just storing this information, but we also want to add some value to it, right? What happens, though, most of the time, a lot of times, this decisions of what needs to be stored, what additional values to be added, they are governed by policies or the need, which are not very technical. They're just, well, because we just have this much of storage, because we can only have this much of processing power, and so on. So probably the best things that we have tried so far may not be best after all when you think about how it's going to be used in the future. So let's talk about preservation in a bigger picture of curation. So digital curation involves these three main things: selection, preservation, and ensuring access to this whatever information you have preserved. Selection is nothing but identifying what object or information you want to preserve, and usually this is governed by some kind of policies or need. So you decide, okay, well, whatever presentation we are making here is important enough to be preserved. Let's store it, let's preserve it, and make all the efforts to preserve it. And those things are kind of, it's interesting, but I'm not going to focus on those. Preservation. It involves deciding what to preserve along with the actual object. So of course some metadata, and as I'm going to talk about the context, how and where to store those things. So basically how to represent this object or information. So there will be a decision about this video, will it be in MPEG format, AVI? Storage media, there are a lot of issues about how do you store this thing, how do you preserve it, because we are talking about keeping something for a long time. How do you maintain it? Because over the time, technologies change, and we are planning to keep this for a long period of time. And then last, ensuring access. So in a way, if you've done all the steps right in a consistent manner, it's almost guaranteed that you'll be able to provide the, access to this information or these objects in the future. But still, you may have to take additional steps. So it involves some issues from IR and SCI where you want to make sure that this information is actually retrievable, and not only retrievable, but it makes sense when somebody actually looks at it. So how do you present that information? Now, so there are a lot of things here, but I'm of course not working on all of them. So let me just mention what I'm interested in. So I'm interested in working on preservation, mainly the contextual information, probably a little bit of metadata. And once again, what's the difference between them? We'll talk about it. So I'm not interested in any of these other things here. And there's a lot of work on it, and it's really interesting. But I'm not interested. I'm also interested in working on ensuring access. So some issues from IR and SCI interface related issues, how to present the information that you preserve. Now, putting these things together, what's the problem? So imagine a curator responsible for collecting this kind of information and storing it and showing for the future generations that they get access to this thing, that they would be able to make sense out of it. What's the difficulty? So we realize that it's important to capture this contextual information, but we don't know what exactly constitutes this contextual information. Can you collect something and say, well, that's enough, or well, that's too much? And even if you identify those things, it's not always easy to go and get those things. Okay, a lot of times this requires a lot of human effort, and we don't always have that much of manpower to actually do this. And if you try to automate it completely, you may not get a good quality information. So there are some research questions that I'm interested in. Well, first thing is to identify what's the difference between metadata and context. Then what exactly is contextual information? How do you go and grab those things? Also, we don't, as I mentioned, we don't want to just have machines doing all this work. We also want to cache on the curator's knowledge or the expert knowledge of background. How do you incorporate those things? Can we detect some kind of patterns or trends analyzing this contextual information about these videos? And lastly, how do you present this thing to the user so that it makes sense? It's not just for the retrieval purpose, but also making sense out of it. So let's now focus on capturing that context. So it's really important that, so one of the biggest challenges in preservation is actually capturing this context. And actually that's what makes us, or archaeologists in this regard, kind of different from looters. Now, there is some work done on it, and most of the times it's dependent on the application or whatever the needs are. So Cal here has proposed this information model with 8 classes of entities, and I'm not going to get into the details of it, but this is one of my inspirations to come up with a model for the digital video preservation, mining contextual information for digital video preservation. So he mentions about this 8 entities: object, agency, event, time, place, form of expression, the function, and the concept. Now, since I have IR background, I had to start thinking from the relevance point of view. So let's see. Let's keep this in mind and see if you have to think all this information from the retrieval point of view or the relevance point of view in the present situation, because we don't have access to the future generation. We don't know what they're going to like and not like. But we can definitely see around what this present generation does. So let's imagine this situation. We have a curator here, and we have this information in different sources. So I have the web and some databases. Now, you can access that information from the web using some kind of search engine, some kind of search system. What does it give you? So using Sarasevic's terms, gives you algorithmic relevance. Yeah? Then we have users who also contribute to that information, putting all the social tags and other information, comments and such. What does that give us? Situational or social relevance. Okay? And then of course we have an expert here, okay, who has some background, who has some knowledge about some specialized databases, and that is kind of cognitive relevance. Right? So if you just look at the present situation, we have things connected, things accessed through this different kind of relevances. Now, this and what I just mentioned before, Lee's model, this is my proposal to have 5 kind of context. So I propose to capture this context in using this 5 different criteria. So when you're looking at the digital video, spatial, where is this event or whatever is happening is taking place? When? Okay. What is the situation there? Okay, so you're describing an event or something like that. What's the social context? What are people talking about it? Their comments, their feedbacks, their ratings, their tags, and the cognitive context. What are the experts talking about? What does the curator has to say about this? Okay. So once again, this is not something which is a proven model something, but this is what I'm working on. Now let me just give you a brief demo of this. I hope this works. Okay. Oh wait, I'm working on this. Okay, so I have this little system called Context Minor, and I'm not going to go into the details of this, and there's a lot of things, and most of the things are under construction. So, but let me just demonstrate a couple of things here. So this is a curator, and you can use this system. The idea is to collect this information from different sources and eventually store them in the collection that you're building for preservation. Now, let's see. So this is our form for adding the information. So I have these two different fields here, one for metadata and one for collecting all those 5 different contexts. Now, metadata has all the usual things of, title of the video, description, keyword, source, genre, if it has some transcript, the data source. Sometimes you have some surrogates and whatever additional information you have. Then you have all these 5 different contexts. So where, when, event, the social context, which includes all the tags, rating, and so on. Cognitive context in which the curator can talk about, related information, how much this video is novel, and so on. Now, and we can submit this form to the database. So let's see how this works. So we have some sources here where you can search. So let's say the curator starts with some search here. I'm just gonna have this. What's this doing right now is it's searching an open video database, which is a specialized database of video collection. And once again, I'm not talking about the technical details here, but this is not a simple database search. It's actually doing a more like IR search in the background. Let's say you select a result here. What it does, it goes back and captures all that it can get. So it captured all this metadata information. It actually didn't find any contextual information. But as you can see, it filled in as much as possible. And then now curator can analyze this information, edit it if he wants, add anything more he likes to, and submit it. The thing is, many times it's possible the same video exists in more than one sources, and in that case you can actually combine things. So let's say, for instance, so there is no, say, surrogate here, but let's search it in Prelinger. And so happen that Prelinger also has the same video base with some little bit of different information, but it also has this information which was missing in the open video, right? So you can combine these different sources.
Is that just merged, or is that a separate record?
This is a separate record. Okay. So right now it's kind of like left to the curator to analyze these things and merge them. Let's search for this. So you can search on the web using Yahoo. So this, and then there's also an option of doing a profile-based search. So curator can actually create a profile in which you can view all the preferences. I'm not going to demonstrate that right now. But let's say I search this on YouTube and select this. So in case of YouTube, it actually can gather some of the contextual information also. So it collected, once again, all this metadata. And at the same time, if you notice here, it collected this social context. So there are all these tags that people have put. This many people have rated this video. This is the average rating. The comments. The video is viewed this many times. And these are actual comments. So these are all those 20 comments here from people. So you have all this thing here. Right? So this is, we're just capturing social context. What happens to the rest of it? Well, I'll talk about it a little later, but right now it's getting as much as possible from YouTube. So basically it's possible, and this is the source. So it's possible for a curator to analyze this detail from different sources, and we try to do as much as possible in the background, but ultimately it's left to the curator to decide what goes in, what gets preserved.
Another
7 minutes,
Okay.
but that's including questions, so.
Okay, so all right, so enough for the demo. Let me just summarize what I've done so far. I haven't done so much, but as I say, it's just the beginning. I've done some lit review on different aspects of curation, preservation, metadata, collecting contextual information. Proposed a set of those 5 contexts to capture. And once again, this is a hypothesis that should help. Those 5 contexts that should be necessary, if not sufficient. Then develop this context minor system, which is kind of a prototype system, and also helps to demonstrate some of the concepts that I talked about before. What's going on right now? So this is what I'm working right now, is monitoring the videos related to the presidential election through YouTube. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to demonstrate this, but this is a general system. How it works is, we have a bunch of queries related to presidential election. The system goes to YouTube, gets the videos related to those queries, parses them, extracts the metadata, also downloads the videos and puts in the format that we want, and collects the contextual information. Now, the system keeps going back to YouTube periodically and keeps collecting this contextual information. So what's interesting to note is how people are watching these videos, how they're commenting on them. And some of the other contextual information is how other sites are linking to these videos, and so on. So what do we plan to achieve with this? Well, over the next 1.5 years, we'll see how these things will take place, like kind of how these things are shaping the situation, how people are talking about it, how the candidates are dropping out, what the results of the election. So just to summarize, this is a cartoon which appeared last week in Daily Tar Heel. So right now we don't know what's going to happen, right? But we're collecting all this information. We're also collecting it, like every week, and we'll see how it actually, sources like YouTube, which are so popular, what's the correlation between the actual situation and what people talk about. So the relation between the social context and the real situation. Right. So this is what's going on. What's going to happen in near future? So we're presenting a poster and demo at JCDL about this work. There's also a demo in SIGAR that we'll be presenting, and I didn't actually talk about the work, but one of the components in Context Minor is collection visualization. So when you're working with a special collection, there are tools you can use to visualize the collection, and I'm going to skip that right now. We're also planning to send a paper to this workshop talking about the monitoring function I just mentioned. This summer I'm doing an internship at FXCall, and that's where I'm hoping to understand those other contexts that I talked about, how to capture them. Because they're one of the leading groups in track width, and they have the system about which captures or extracts the features from the video. So you can probably know, okay, this video took place in a car or outside, indoor, so on. I plan to continue working on Context Minor next semester, or hopefully even this summer. I want to make it open source so that other people can access this, develop this further, contribute to the plugins and so on. I also want to evaluate it in a realistic setting, because right now I'm just making all this assumption. Who knows what curator actually likes? Right? I don't have any experience. Later, conduct a study to understand the usefulness of this context. Does it actually help people to understand the object better, even in the present situation? We're not going to be able to go in the future to conduct this study, but we can do it in the present situation. And also understand the effectiveness of different interfaces. Actually, one of the things I didn't show in Context Minor is presenting the information. So right now we have just a normal digital library kind of interface, then a faceted interfaces which includes flamenco and relational browser. So conduct a user study which evaluates the effects of those things. And well, with that, I'd like to thank my advisor, Gary, all the members of VidArt team. They're all actually here except Cheryl, and Paul, and Barbara, and well, the whole class.
Referred to that before. Baby dot class?
Well, this is probably like the last. We're not going to be baby doc anymore.
Be careful.
You won't get as paid as well. You will not get paid as well as a pediatrician when you're done with this.
Okay. Questions? Yes, Joe.
Have you timed how long it takes to fill out, you know, when you pull up that information and you have that whole form?
Yeah.
I mean, how long would it take to catalog each video?
No, I haven't, and that's what I need to ask to an actual curator, because I can like do it and I can say, well, it takes 2 minutes, but you know, I'm not a curator. I don't know what exactly should go in there, what I should analyze. It also depends on the source, because as you saw, sometimes you just get some fields and you have everything else left. It depends on the quality of the source, how good the quality is. So yeah, right now I don't know, and that'll be one of my goals to find out. And
For any one video, would you expect a curator to fill out all of the different, I think the one you showed was spatial, maybe, and would you expect them to fill out a temporal, all the others, okay, I see you do that all. I was looking at
yeah, I mean, as of now, you can just like, even without doing anything, you can just press like submit and it will go in the database basically.
Just fill out.
So it's kind of like everything is optional,
Okay.
right? But that's one of the things, and it could also depend on policy basically. You know, like what's your policy? If you're working in some organization, something, you say, well, we don't care about this thing, but we definitely need this. So.
And would you see like under temporal or spatial, like a drop-down list or control vocabulary potentially?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea, sure. I mean, if you can have a set,
I'm thinking
A
the
fixed
when,
set of-
the when is very difficult.
True.
You know, is it the 1920s, is it 1921 to 25, is it 1921
or is it day or night, or, yeah.
Is it just after World War I?
Which one are we talking about then? What does that mean?
Well, basically it's when this video is taking place, which could mean like, 18th century, this is describing something which was done, or it's like a day or time. I haven't like I don't have a clear definition of it, but something to do with time. But we could do the drop down box kind of thing, or have a fixed vocabulary.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Jackson.
What about kind of, when you talk about situational context and all this stuff, what about online context? I mean, if you're talking about digital video, particularly YouTube video, there's all sorts of context. I mean, there's comments on the thing, there's the related videos, there's the stuff, the things that are embedded in it, the stuff that's, is there. Okay.
Yeah, so this is, I'm considering everything as social there.
But what about the pages that video's been embedded in? What about the pages
that's
that are linked
that's
to
the
that?
main data source. This is the page where the video is embedded.
No. I mean, it's shared. I mean, one of the fundamental aspects of YouTube videos is the fact that I can take that video and embed it in my own website. What about every website that's ever embedded that video? That's all context. It's people who are commenting on that thing. People who link, I mean, if you go into the whole linking thing, what about people who linked to that video in the kind of technobody type of context?
True, but all information that you can get from YouTube, the most, is the links that are coming to that page.
Right, well that's
But
part of context.
not the people who are taking that video and embedding it in their own pages.
Yeah, but if you do a Google search for that, all you have to do is do a Google search,
Yeah.
and you'll find that.
Yes.
Do the fields link to any of the major metadata standards?
Where? I'm sorry.
What do these map to?
Um.
I mean, the major, like MARC or?
No. I don't like. No, I'm not following any standard. And once again, this is debatable. Like, I just identify. Okay, we did. So this is basically from whatever the data sources I had, and the metadata that they had. So I kind of like, combine them and say, well, all of them are giving title, some of them are giving description, some of them have this. So not all the fields exist in all the database, but this is kind of all that I could get from this, the data sources that I studied.
One other question. So, in terms of spatial context and the where, does it take into account, changing names? Meaning changing names, changing borders. I mean, if you think about the fact that wasn't that long ago that St. Petersburg had a different name, I
Right.
mean,
No, so that's why I'm hoping that combine this and this should help to So a lot of these things are very time dependent. So and that's one of the things in that monitoring component that I talked about, where you collect the information at periodically, and things may change, but you also know when you collected that information. So you should be able to relate it to, okay, well, this information is not valid right now, but it was valid at that time.
one person that you might want to talk to is Karen Youngblood, and she has to show up on mission, and they had to deal a lot with context, spatial, and temporal in terms of marking videos for the show up on mission.
Oh,
Done a
okay.
lot of neat work with that, so you might want I can give you her name and number.
Thank you.
Good job, Tom.
Okay, thank